Inflation rises to 13.22% in August. Central Bank of Nigeria to establish infrastructure company. Conversion of cars to gas filling begins in October. Plus, oil prices appreciate as OPEC predicts decline in 2020 demand. And on this edition of Business Express, we shall be taking a look at pension matters. And we're reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. So good to know that you're still with us on Business Express. Nigeria is adopting a multi-sectoral approach to financing health as the world battles COVID-19. Liakatung Babatunde reports that the new drive is to ensure proper funding to bridge the health infrastructure deficit in the country and prepare for emergencies.
The coronavirus pandemic has caused governments around the world to look deeper at gaps in the health sector as efforts continue globally to find a definite end to the virus. Just as economies have been brought to their knees, it is estimated that up to $8 trillion could be wiped out of the world's economy due to the pandemic.
We find that if you put, prior to this time, $1 per person, per country, that was able to prepare the country to respond to outbreaks effectively.
Participating institutions at the multi-sectoral workshop for financing health and security in Nigeria identified weak investment as a major concern for rapid response to outbreaks.
I work in portal services. We are ravaged with a general lack of funds to carry out our activities.
We need to be able to increase our funding to improve our capacity to be able to prepare more for the outbreak.
For Nigeria, maintaining health financing for emergencies such as the coronavirus in annual budgeting process is now paramount.
The aim of this workshop, which is to equip budget officers in NTAs with requisite knowledge on mainstreaming financing health emergencies in our annual budgets, will be achieved.
Once we have the sub-national support efforts on health improved, we will see far more than what we are expecting.
The workshop also seeks to engage partners for resource mobilization in getting ready for emergencies like COVID-19.
Nigeria's inflation rose to 13.22% in August 2020. Figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that increase in food prices was responsible for most of the rise in inflation across the country. Benny Adams has details of the figures.
National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) Monday said Nigeria's inflation, which began its upward movement over 27 months ago, attained a peak of 13.22% year-on-year in August 2020. This, it said, is 0.40 percentage points higher than the rate recorded in July 2020. The Bureau said the increases were recorded in all classifications of individual consumption according to purpose divisions that yielded the headline index. It said the rise in the food index was caused by increases in prices of bread and cereals, potatoes, yam and other tubers, meat, fish, fruits, oils and fats, as well as vegetables. However, the Bureau said the composite food index rose by 16.00% in August 2020 compared to 15.48% in July 2020, whereas on month-on-month basis, the food sub-index increased by 1.67% in August 2020, up by 0.15% points from 1.52% recorded in July 2020.
In other business news, President Muhammadu Buhari has described as not only justifiable, but in the best interest of the country, the loans taken by the federal government towards addressing the dire shortfalls in the nation's critical infrastructure. The president stated this at a virtual meeting with members of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council on the state of Nigeria's economy and the way forward.
Deficit. We just have to take loans to make sure we got the roads, the rail, and more importantly, the power.
On the issue of the economy, President Buhari noted the challenges posed by the collapse of the oil market and the decision of government to abide by the reduced oil production quota allocated by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC.
News will support us economically. If we don't, they have the capacity to flood the market and make our oil production unviable. We are really in a very, very difficult situation.
President Buhari also stressed the position of agriculture in the government scheme to reduce joblessness and poverty.
When we turn their attention to agriculture, those of them that went back into agriculture did not regret it. We virtually stopped importation of food. This is a major progress. It provides employment and then, of course, improve the economy in terms of savings of foreign exchange.
The president also broached the issue of COVID-19 pandemic and how it necessitated the recent government policies as they relate to electricity and fuel. He said the federal government took such decisions because it places the country above politics. In determination to accelerate economic growth in the country, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, is to establish an infrastructure company, InfraCorp, through which to massively invest in the much-needed infrastructure facilities across the nation. The governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, announced this at the 13th Annual Banking and Finance Conference in Abuja Tuesday. According to him, the firm to be established in collaboration with the African Finance Corporation, AFC, and the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, would be a pool for both public and private funds for infrastructure investments. Emefiele said the decline in revenues due to federal and state government as a result of the drop in crude oil prices, alternative ways of funding infrastructure are critical if the nation is to attain sustained growth of the economy. The company approved by President Muhammadu Buhari is to look at hard infrastructure such as roads and ports and soft infrastructure such as broadband penetration. On our discussion segment today, we will be looking at issues around pension assets and liabilities as the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, PTAD, seeks to better lives after service. To do just that, we have in the studio Dr. Choma Ejikeme, Executive Secretary of PTAD. It's a pleasure to have you on Business Express, ma'am.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay. So you've been the Executive Secretary of PTAD for the last 12 months. Tell us how the journey has been so far.
It has been an interesting and exciting journey, I must say. Taking care of senior citizens, of which I happen to be a part of. Okay. I am a PTAD pensioner. Okay. So I guess it's interesting for me to be part of administering pension for the senior citizens of the defined benefit scheme. My predecessor had moved at a very fast pace concerning pensions. Okay. So I didn't have a choice but to hit the ground running. So it has been intense. We've been carrying out a lot of verification exercises to build our database
Okay.
And
how have you been handling the challenges of, quick access to pensions for the pensioners?
it has been wonderful.
Okay.
We have been paying pensions promptly
Okay.
and whenever it's due, because that is a function of release of funds from the Ministry of Finance, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. And they have been very, very good with release of funds for pensions. So we've been paying our pensioners promptly, and they can attest to that.
All right, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So can you highlight some of the achievements of your regime in the last 12 months?
The first big thing for us is the completion of verification of parastatal pensioners. And we concluded that in November, December last year.
Okay.
And we have actually started validating the results of that verification. And right now we're on the verge of removing about 21,227 pensioners off the payroll. These are pensioners who did not come for the verification, and they're not supposed to be on the payroll. But we actually have given out the information to the pension unions, and I'm here today to also say that there might be some pensioners who are genuine pensioners, but for some reason we're not able to avail themselves of that verification exercise. And we're saying they should reach out to us before the 25th of September this month, so that we can look into their case, verify them, and put them on the payroll. We're also aware that a good number of our pensioners are diaspora pensioners, especially from the parastatal pension department, because we have a whole lot of professionals there, especially in the medical profession and all of that. So a lot of them left the shores of the country. So we are also seizing this opportunity to say that if you know that your relation worked in any of the parastatals and the universities, the colleges of education, and they're out of the country, please let them know to get in touch with us. And we have dedicated an email address for that, papdcomplaints@pitad.gov.ng. Everything is on our website, so that they can avail themselves.
Will they be able to access their funds when they pass through all the procedures?
Oh yes, oh yes. The only thing we're trying to do is to make sure that only credible pensioners are on our database.
Okay.
Genuine, credible pensioners.
Okay. So with the new minimum wage,
yes,
I'm sure that there's implementation of percentage increase for pensioners.
Yes.
What have you been able to do as regards to that?
You know, PTAD, like I keep saying, is an engine room for carrying out the mandate of the government concerning pensioners of the defined benefit scheme. So when it comes to salary structures, conditions of service, and all of that, we get instructions from the relevant agencies. The National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission had set up a committee to look into pension increment. And the committee, we happen to have chaired the committee.
Okay.
One of the directors from PTAD chaired the committee. The committee has concluded, and I believe they've submitted a report. So we're just waiting for the recommendation. We're just waiting for the instruction.
How soon do you think pensioners will be able to get that percentage increase?
As soon as we get the instruction.
Okay.
Because we have been funded. We made provision for that increase in our 2020 budget. Okay. So we have been funded for that. So as soon as we get the instruction, we will implement.
Okay. Yes. You talked about database.
Yes.
So what are you doing to ensure that you get a reliable and credible database for pensioners across the country?
Yeah, the first thing we've done is the verification, like I told you.
Okay.
With the verification, we're able to weed out people who are not supposed to be there in the first instance. And going forward, we intend to put in place what we call the I'm Alive project. Okay. Because you know the way it is, the pensioners will keep falling off the database as a result of death. So we have to have a program in place that would let us know when these pensioners have passed on, so that we could remove them from our database.
How does that work?
The Am Alive?
Yes, the Am Alive.
We actually are looking at proposals right now.
So it's in the pipeline?
It is in the pipeline, yes.
Okay, okay. All right. Activities of pension scammers must be a serious worry to you. What are you doing to checkmate these activities?
We continue to create awareness
okay.
In the newspapers, electronic media, social media, through the pension unions. We tell our pensioners not to fall for fraudsters. Nobody in Petard will take money from you to process your pension or to put you on the payroll or to pay you your arrears or gratuity. So we keep telling them not to fall for these fraudsters. But on the other hand, we are collaborating with ICPC and EFCC. So whenever we get such reports, we always send the complaint to the relevant authorities to investigate and look into it. And we have been successful. In some occasions. Some people have been apprehended, and they're facing the wrath of the law at the moment.
Okay, you've said that you've made giant strides in terms of addressing pension matters.
Yes.
But what about pension arrears? What have you been able to do with that, and what are you planning to do?
Pension arrears, these are inherited liabilities. And like I keep saying, when you've inherited something that took place over a period of 17 years, for instance.
That's quite a long time.
You don't expect to be able to resolve that particular liability in 1 year. We have two major groups of liabilities now that are in two major departments. One is the Civil Service Pension Department liability, where we have gratuities, arrears of pension, some people who are not on the payroll, post-verification that we're validating. I have set up a project that has started. Okay. And in fact, today I was able to sign off, make approvals for payments for some pensioners that have been, their computation has been worked on as a result of the project. So on a daily basis now, I'm going to be paying gratuities, I'm going to be paying arrears, we're going to be putting people on the pension payroll from the Civil Service Pension Department based on the project that we're working on. But the liabilities of the Parastatal Pension Department, these are, most of them are agencies, defunct agencies that were privatized. Post-privatization, they just pushed the liabilities to Petard. No pension assets. And these agencies had pension assets. A lot of them with underwriters, the insurance companies. So we're pursuing the insurance companies to release these pension funds, worth over 44 billion, belonging to these defunct agencies, so that we'll be able to take care of their liabilities. But government has been trying. Last year, we paid 12 months each of the liabilities, but we're talking about a liability of up to 150 billion.
But isn't it taking too long to get these monies to pay these pensioners? Because a lot of them are crying.
You know something? With the defunct agencies, these agencies were privatized in 2005. We've had successive governments since then. It is this administration that put them on the payroll.
Wow.
In 2018.
Okay.
We've instructed us to verify them. They have been wailing all these years. So we put them on the payroll. So at least now they're getting their monthly pension regularly. But the arrears accumulated, which if previous administrations had addressed these issues, we wouldn't have this problem. If they had done as much as we are doing now, we wouldn't have the problem.
All right, tell us plans you have for pensioners and the directorate.
The Am Alive project, like I told you, is key. It's key for us. We'll continue to fight pension fraudsters, because they really distract us and make our work look bad when it is not. We also would continue with, like I said, payment of the liabilities that we have inherited for the pensioners. And I am particularly passionate about seeing that a health insurance scheme is put in place for our pensioners. But before we can do that, we have to have a credible database, first of all, and know exactly who our pensioners are before we can.
And you're already working on that, as you said.
Exactly.
All right. So we wish you the very best as you try to
very much.
handle these pension matters.
Thank you very much.
We've been speaking to Dr. Choma Ejikeme, the Executive Secretary of PITAD. It's a pleasure having you on Business Express.
Thank you.
Moving on. Oil prices rose for a second day on Wednesday, gaining more than 2% as a hurricane closed U.S. offshore oil and gas production, and an oil industry report showed U.S. crude inventories decreased. Meanwhile, oil prices appreciated after the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, said the world oil demand would fall by 9.46 million barrels per day in 2020. In its previous forecast, OPEC put the decline at 9.06 million barrels per day. The Global Oil Cartel said the crude oil production by the 13-member organization increased by 760,000 barrels per day to an average 24.05 million barrels per day in August. Crude oil output increased mainly in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Algeria, and Angola, while production decreased primarily in Iraq. As Nigerians come to terms with the recent increase in price of petroleum motor spirit petrol, the federal government assures that the introduction of compressed natural gas (CNG) will cushion the effects of the price hike. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Timi Silva said the auto gas, an alternative to petrol, is 40% cheaper than petrol, noting that Nigerians will not feel the impact of the recent increase in pump price of petrol. According to him, the federal government has concluded plans to introduce the CNG by the end of October. The minister urged motorists to go for a conversion of their vehicles from petrol to gas-run engine, adding that the federal government will ensure that the conversion will be done free of charge for all Nigerians to cushion the effect of the hike in pump price of petrol. And on the capital market, transactions at the close of Wednesday trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange ended in negative territory. The NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 0.19% to close at 25,550.31 basis points as traders exchanged 211 million shares valued at 2.41 billion naira in 3,651 deals. Market capitalization also dropped to 13.3 trillion naira. Meanwhile, stocks in Asia Pacific were mixed in Wednesday trade as investors awaited the Federal Open Markets Committee's quarterly update. Bosede Abel has details of global market activities.
Global market figures resumed trade mixed on the 16th of September. Africa stocks began early trading mixed. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Nairobi's All-Share were marginally positive, while Tunisia's Tunidex, Ghana's GSE Composite and Namibia's overall index depreciated. European stocks were mostly higher as investors await the outcome of a two-day meeting of the U.S. Federal Reserve's Federal Open Markets Committee. Stocks in Asia were mixed as investors awaited the Federal Open Open Market Committee's quarterly update. Nikkei closed fractionally higher at 23,475.53. Shanghai Composite declined 0.36% to 3,283.92, while the Hang Seng Index was little change as of its final hour of trading. U.S. stock futures rose in early trading as investors prepared for comments from the Federal Reserve later in the day.
And a look at the international currency market is next. And this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is at NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. Do join us again on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. for another package. I am Muplang Dakok saying stay safe.